A giant mausoleum was constructed as his tomb, becoming a place of reverence for Mongols everywhere, a fitting resting place for the great Khan. At least, it might have been, if that's where he was actually buried.
So what? So he kind of disappeared from his mausoleum and we have no religion related to that?
Hello everyone.
Hi everyone.
I'm Waldemar.
And I'm Weronika.
And today we are again watching the Sideprojects channel. Channel, sorry. It's a Polish word for the channel. Before it was the video about how things are being taught differently in other countries. And today it's an older video, much more popular one. So I hope it's good, judging by the views.
I'm really intrigued by the title.
Yeah, me too. It's 5 ancient mysteries we still haven't solved. And yeah, it has this Indiana Jones vibe.
It does. And I listen to a lot of podcasts about science, and I listen to a couple, my favorite podcast is a Polish one, so I can't really recommend it to you, but they had a lot of episodes about ancient mysteries as well. So I'm wondering if I will know something, at least. Then it will be even more interesting.
We can show off.
I can show off, maybe. I don't know. Let's see.
Let's begin.
Today on Side Projects, we're going to profile 5 ancient mysteries that we still haven't solved, and if you enjoy a good mystery, especially a good murder mystery, then I think you might want to check out my new podcast, The Casual Criminalist, covering some of the darkest things that we could find from the history of crime, from the UK doctor who was the worst serial killer in history, to the time an American socialite murdered her best friend with a car, allegedly, and totally got away with it. Allegedly. And much...
I mean, he was the most successful one, but does it make him the worst? That's an interesting question, isn't it? What makes you the worst serial killer? Is it how many people you killed or how, cruel you were? I would prefer, if I would be killed by a serial killer, I wouldn't, it wouldn't make a difference for me. I would prefer for him to have an experience. And this doctor, he killed people, I think, with the syringe? You say syringe? Yeah, and I would prefer it, I think.
No,
than to be killed by some guy who killed 7 people, still a serial killer, but he hatched them with the axe.
I think once you're a certain level of a serial killer and you get the experience, you also know exactly how to make something hurt a lot. So I'm not sure you want that experience. Depends what they're after. But what I wanted to say is, grammatically, they are kind of the best serial killer because they got away with it.
Yeah. So the worst serial killer would have what? 3 is the minimum, so...
Yeah, so 3, and he got caught immediately doing the third one.
Much more, but it's also pretty laid back, it's a bit more freeform, with the occasional laugh, because isn't death hilarious? Weekly shows wherever you get your podcasts, also on YouTube. As of recently, there are links below, and let's get into the video. History gives us context and helps us understand how we got to where we are today, or why a historical event happened the way it did. How little changes here or there could have resulted in massively different outcomes. Of course, that really only works if we know what actually happened. Unfortunately, there are many historical events where the records that could tell us exactly what happened are either gone or hidden away. Being lost to history is a real concern, which is partly why universities have such massive libraries with tons of obscure documents to catalogue everything so that we don't lose anything again. Of course, anything that was lost before they were catalogued is basically unrecoverable. Even so, that doesn't stop historians and archaeologists from trying, and since the Industrial Revolution, there's been a concerted effort to patch up the gaps in the historical record as best we can. With that in mind, we've got 5 ancient mysteries that even today we still haven't fully solved, and without further ado, let's get into them.
I don't know this one.
The first mystery in today's video is not a strange event or a lost city, but a person about whom the only thing we know with absolute certainty is that he existed. Zoroaster, also known as Zarathustra, was a man who lived in what is today Eastern Iran. Born to nomadic parents, he supposedly became a priest as a young man before he had...
Do you know from the Zarathustra?
No, not really.
There's this book by Nietzsche that says... Tako rzeczy Zarathustra. Sorry, I'm saying in Polish so he can...
Yeah, this one I know.
I think we have it, but I don't know. We might have it. So he will say, I don't know much about his story other than what was in that book. But let's see. I thought maybe it would spark your memory.
Just a divine revelation at the age of 30. We won't bore you with the extensive theological details here, but what he learns from this revelation would eventually become the basis for the religion known as Zoroastrianism, famously practiced by the ancient Persians and the not-so-ancient Freddie Mercury. But it's not just powerful empires and world-famous musicians that illustrate Zoroaster's reach. Tenets of Zoroastrianism are believed by some historians to have influenced other religions, including the Abrahamic faiths of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Incredibly, Zoroastrianism is still practiced in parts of Iran and India today, making it one of the oldest contiguous religions on Earth. So, Zoroaster and his theological ideas were, in historical terms, a really big deal. So what else do we know about him? The answer is, well, not much at all. Though we have a decent picture of Zoroaster's religious ideas, the man himself is almost as legendary as the gods he spoke of. Historians don't know exactly where he was born or even when. The more orthodox historical conclusion is that Zoroaster lived at around the same time as Cyrus the Great, founder of the first Achaemenid Persian Empire, which would put his life at around the 7th century BCE. But Cyrus has a few historical blank spots too. You see, around this time, history as a profession was less about actual facts and information than it was about telling a good story, hence why the Persian Empire is often viewed as despotic and tyrannical, even though they were actually, as the technical term goes, pretty chill. The bad reputation we get from the Persian Empire comes largely from Herodotus, a Greek historian who, despite being called the father of history, included many obvious legends in his historical writings, which means that you can't take the source solely at its word, and you have to split hairs to find out what's real and what isn't. As such, with both Cyrus and Zoroaster, it's difficult to disentangle the legend surrounding these two with the actual historical facts, which is a tendency you will notice a lot if you study ancient history. Case in point, here's a drawing of Cyrus the Great with wings. With that in mind, some scholars think that Zoroaster could have lived as far back as the 6th millennium BCE. That's some serious guesstimation there, but it really is.
He said millennium.
Yeah.
I think that was a mistake, right?
No, I think he meant century because it said BC.
But still,
600 BC.
I had no idea that we have such an... Wait, 6th...
No, I think he meant century.
You
can go back. I think it looks on the screen. Yes, he said. No, it says 6 BC. Mm-hmm. No, he cannot mean. He cannot mean millennia. I'm sure he means century. Yeah. That would not make any sense.
As the 6th millennium BCE. That's some serious guesstimation there, but it really is the best we can do with the information that we have available. If we want to know more, we'll probably have to go to Iran to get it, and we're probably not going to do that. The next entry in this video is one that if you've watched any history channels on YouTube, you're probably quite familiar with. It's the Late Bronze Age collapse. Now, we won't spend too much time on this one because there are a billion videos about the Bronze Age collapse that go into far more detail than we could in a couple of paragraphs. So with that in mind, we'll just give you the Cliff Notes version, and then you might want to go and read or watch about the Bronze Age collapse somewhere else. Why would you want to do that? Well, probably because it's one of the greatest mysteries in history. So here's the deal. In the year 1200 BCE, there were several huge empires in the Eastern Mediterranean and Mesopotamia. You may recognize the names of some of them: the Hittites, the Babylonians, the Mycenaeans, Greeks, and so on. These empires were large, populous, and powerful. 50 years later, they were gone. According to archaeological evidence, almost every single major city in the Eastern Mediterranean was violently destroyed, many of them never to be occupied again. So what happened to them?
I have some small recollection about this, now that I remember it, about like the empires disappearing. Mm-hmm. And I am actually extremely excited because I heard about it in one of the podcasts, and some conspiracy theories about this as well, and I couldn't find it because I forgot which podcast I listened to, and I forgot what it was called. Oh. And I tried to look for it with different keywords, and I couldn't find it. So I'm really excited.
That's a good feeling.
Yeah.
The most powerful states on the planet. We don't know. Well, when we say we don't know, what we really mean is we don't know for sure. Progress has since been made in researching the Bronze Age collapse, and historians have settled for now on something known as the systems collapse theory. Basically, everything just stopped working all at the same time. It would be like the internet going out, then the TV, then all of the Starbucks close, and that causes the world to collapse overnight, especially the Starbucks thing. There were probably famines, natural disasters, tin shortages, tin being a necessary component of bronze, which makes it a vital resource for, the Bronze Age. In addition to this, there is a good deal about...
But what, everything happened in 50 years, like he said?
That's what he's saying.
That's a big coincidence.
Evidence for a group of people that historians refer to rather blandly as the Sea Peoples. A lot of information about them is still shrouded in mystery, but here's what we know for sure. First, they were an ethnically diverse confederation of peoples originally from the Western Mediterranean. Second, they migrated via sea to the Eastern Mediterranean either to find wealth or to escape hardship in their original homes. And third, they were really good at winning wars. It's not known for sure how much of an impact they had, but there is historical precedent for armies of unified groups conquering vast swaths of territory and annihilating entire towns. We're thinking of you, Genghis Khan, and well, speaking of Genghis Khan...
This one I know. We don't know where it is.
Genghis Khan is remembered as history's greatest conqueror. He unified the disparate nomadic tribes of Mongolia into a unified force of unmatched warriors and then led them on a military campaign across the Eurasian continent, conquering the steppes of Central Asia, northern China, and northern Persia. His successors would go on to continue his conquests, creating the largest land empire in history and conquering lands in Russia, the rest of China, and the Middle East. Descendants of Genghis would famously create their own empires, including Timur and Babur, who founded the Timurid and Mughal empires respectively. Nobody is immortal, at least not yet. Still waiting on that, scientists, come on. And as such, Genghis Khan died in August of the year 1227. We don't know exactly how he died. Could have been illness, injuries from hunting, killed in battle, or simply passing away quietly in his sleep. His body was taken back to Mongolia, where a giant mausoleum was constructed as his tomb, becoming a place of reverence for Mongols everywhere, a fitting resting place for the great Khan. At least, it might have been, if that's where he was actually buried. Because this mausoleum isn't actually Genghis Khan's resting place. It's a memorial, but it's not a tomb. So where was Genghis Khan buried? To put it simply, no idea. Genghis Khan requested for his body to be buried quietly without any
So what? So he kind of... I was going to make a joke that he disappeared from his mausoleum and we have no religion related to that.
No. But is it that a big mystery? I mean...
Especially because he's not just... that's why I was like, okay, this joke is not funny anymore when he started to explain that he wanted to be buried quietly.
Yeah, like, we don't know where Hitler is buried, because he is not. But for example, we don't know where... maybe it's different when you are being cremated, and then when are your ashes being buried.
Not buried.
But it's also but it's mostly the same. Like, there are many celebrities who died and who asked for their burial site to be unknown. Is it that big of a mystery? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think so.
markings or signs. Since you don't disobey the Great Khan even when he's dead, he still might get you. That's exactly what was done. His body was returned to Mongolia after his death, and the best guess that we can make from there is that he was returned to Khenti in the east of the country where he was born, and that he is buried somewhere close to the Onon River. And that's really the best we can do without churning up every square foot of dirt in Mongolia looking for the guy. According to legend, 2,000 people attended his funeral, who were then killed by one of his armies, who were then killed by his escort, who then killed everyone they found along the way, who then committed suicide when all was said and done. Now, in terms of historical...
I don't think so. It could happen.
Probably isn't what actually happened, but we get the gist that Genghis wanted his body to be hidden away from the world after he was dead, which is an oddly humble end for a man who wrote himself into history with so much blood and conquest. Much like where he is buried, we can only speculate about his intentions.
Do you know this one?
No, I guess it's something about the Roman Empire, but I don't know.
Going back about a millennium, we come to the Roman Empire. Rome is the time period where history starts becoming less messy. There's no winged Cyrus the Great to pick apart or anything like that. There were still legends, but at least compared with ancient history, it's relatively easy to separate them from historical fact. But Roman history still has its breaks. One of the most head-scratching is the ultimate fate of the Ninth Legion. The story of the Ninth begins with Julius Caesar, who inherited the legion when he became governor of Cisalpine Gaul, today's northern Italy. Caesar led the legion throughout the Gallic Wars and the Roman Civil War. After Caesar won that civil war, he disbanded the legion and settled the veterans in the Italian countryside. But those veterans were later recalled by Caesar's adopted son Octavian to fight another civil war and make him into the emperor we know today as Augustus. The legion spent some time flitting around between Spain, Germany, Macedonia, all over the place really, before it was finally stationed on the island of Britain. The legion was present during Boudicca's rebellion in 61 CE, where it suffered a disastrous defeat against her. Afterwards, the legion was reinforced, but the string of bad luck continued when in the year 82 CE, the Roman general Agricola had them invade Caledonia, a mythical and legendary place of wonder and magic known today by the name of Scotland. Long story short, the Caledonians nearly destroyed the legion in a surprise nighttime attack, but the men fought them off and later won a resounding victory at the Battle of Mons Graupius. With yet another victory under their belts, the men of the Ninth returned to Roman territory, where they promptly disappeared from the historical records. And that's really it. We have no idea what happened to them. After Agricola's invasion, there is one stone tablet which states that the Ninth were present at York, rebuilding a fort in the year 108. After that, they're just not mentioned ever again. There are inscriptions of them afterwards that were found in the Netherlands, but some scholars argue that these were just detachments of the Ninth rather than the entire legion itself. So, what happened to them? The most dramatic telling is that the Ninth marched once more into the Caledonian frontier, where it was never heard from again. This theory of annihilation in northern Britain was thought to be supported by the discovery of a damaged Roman eagle sculpture in the town of Silchester, which was believed to possibly be the eagle standard of the Ninth Legion. Unfortunately, we have to do our due diligence and let you viewers know that some archaeologists think that this eagle is just scrap metal and has nothing to do with the Ninth Legion. Stupid historians taking the fun out of absolutely everything. Other theories for what happened to the Ninth include destruction in Judea during the Second Jewish Revolt against the Romans, 132 to 135, while yet another offers that the Ninth was destroyed by the Parthians during the reign of Marcus Aurelius. But these theories are not airtight, and there's a lack of evidence that the Ninth was even in the eastern part of the empire during these two time periods. Whatever the case, we know for a fact that around the year 200 CE, the Ninth Legion did not exist, as it is not included in two independent but identical lists of the 33 existing legions at the time. So, for now at least, what ultimately became of the Ninth Legion is just lost to history. As one historian so succinctly put it, further evidence is needed before more can be said.
But that's an interesting thing, that so much of a history that was before us, we will never know, and without any ways to learn it. But what is happening now and what will happen after us, the generations after us will have access to basically everything. Almost every second of our life will be known to them through all those videos that we made, through satellites, stuff like that. And it's quite possible that soon they could record every second of everything that's happening on Earth.
Yeah, I almost feel sorry for the people who will have to then go through all of this information and compile the program for the future generations and decide what's actually needed to include, you know? But, yeah, well, unless there's some big disaster and then we lose everything again, like Alexandria about the internet, and then everything goes poof.
Yeah, that's also an interesting story with those library.
Yeah.
What could we learn from there?
Yeah. You said that, right? What could you learn from there? From all the books that were there and the maps that must have been there and all the resources and science books and everything.
Yeah.
Oh, I know this one.
Our last entry in the video today takes us to South America, into the country of Peru. In 1553, a Spanish conquistador published a book that described a set of trail markers in southern Peru, high on an arid plateau in the Nazca Desert. Although they were visible from nearby hills, it wasn't until the 20th century that airplane pilots flew over them and people realized that they were far more than just trail markers. The Nazca lines are a group of huge geoglyphs created somewhere between 500 BCE and 500 CE. Well, that's a big range, but given the lack of written records for Andean cultures, it's just our best guess. The vast majority of the lines are simple geometric shapes, but many of the glyphs depict various designs of plants and animals. They're quite aesthetically pleasing on their own, but what's even more impressive with these designs is how they were created. And how they did it is going to shock you. They were created quite simply by drawing lines in the sand and exposing different colored sand underneath. And I know what you're thinking, Simon, that's lame. What's the big deal about these sand lines? And first of all, viewer, you're lame. Just kidding. We love you, especially since you're this far along in a video. Second, what's absolutely amazing about these lines is that even though they're nothing more than drawings on the ground, they've existed for more than 1,000 years at the earliest. That's insane. And that's insane because there are barely buildings that last that long. The second secret behind their preservation is the incredibly stable climate of the plateau that they're located on. There's no wind, no rain, no natural erosion. Walking here is like walking on the moon. Your footprints will be there basically forever. In fact, if you want to visit the Nazca lines in person, you will be required by the guides to put on special shoes to ensure that you don't mess up the delicate ground. As we said before, some of these inscriptions are absolutely enormous, many of them made from one continuous line, with the largest one around 370 meters long. What that means is that these weren't created by some bored guy with nothing better to do. Probably, I mean, stranger things have happened. It's more likely that the creation of these lines...
Yeah, I learned quite recently that all those marks in the fields, the UFO landings, that they were created by the two guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've seen it together?
No, I think it might have been in the same podcast that this video was when I was watching it.
No, I saw the video and it was such a mystery for so many years. Yeah. And I think they were from England and they even showed the tool that they used for that. And they were like, yeah, we are doing like that. And yeah, that was this whole circle and you thought that was the UFO.
Yeah, it's very disappointing. But with this, part of the thing that's incredible is that, you can only discover the shapes when you go so high up. And part of that is that, it's incredibly difficult to plan because, as he said, a line can be 370 meters. So you need like a mathematician, like to build, to plan out how to go.
And also look how symmetrical they are.
Yeah, so it must have been so intricately planned. Of course, like putting up a pyramid is also pretty complicated, but that's why it's so strange. And I think where all the conspiracy theory comes from is, why would they put it there if no one could ever see it? Because imagine the people who did it, they never saw it. People, and maybe from a cliff, but I don't think they even have like that high cliffs there. And if they do, you can't see it in the full picture. So who was it for? So I think all the conspiracy theorists are like, they are for the aliens or something.
And they were like, maybe they were giants, living on the earth.
And they were just
those were like for the cookies,
Yeah, cookie cutters.
Cookie cutters, yeah.
Or like just a child giant with a stick.
Was an organized effort by a large group of people using a lot of maths, which begs the question, well, why did they do it? Why create these glyphs and why make them so large to the point that nobody even knew where they were until the invention of the airplane? And look, you know the drill by now, we just don't know for sure. In general, this is such a disappointing video for people who want answers. But then why did you click on this video? In general, scholars believe that there's a religious significance behind the Nazca lines. Beyond that vague assertion, however, there really is no way to tell because of the aforementioned lack of written records. Some have hypothesized that they were created to be seen by deities in the sky. Others believe astronomy and constellations may have played a role, which, considering the existence of the Mayans, would not be implausible. Still others have posited that they may have even served as a kind of calendar for agricultural purposes. There are several more outlandish theories and explanations regarding the Nazca lines, but honestly, they're just really cool to look at. I mean, check out this hummingbird. It's pretty awesome. So there you have it. 5 ancient mysteries that we haven't yet been able to solve. While no doubt some of these, like the Nazca lines, will remain mysteries for the foreseeable future, historians are working on these. There has been an incredible amount of progress made over just the last 20 years in regard to events like the Bronze Age collapse. Even as we speak, historians are no doubt making progress and piecing together the story of how we got here, and perhaps very soon this list will have to be updated. Until then, thanks for watching. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. Thus spoke Zoroaster.
Great again, really. I really like him, and he speaks really, I don't know, there's something just very pleasant about it. There's nothing unnecessary as opposed to our videos, so I think we could learn something about that, but he's super concise, but he's natural as well. I don't know, I like it.
That last mystery was very interesting for me, those Nazca lines.
You didn't know about it, hear about this
I
before?
don't know, I think I haven't. But I don't know why it's in one video, you know, like, he has like, what, 5 or 6 subjects in this video, and one is such a mystery that it was so many years ago and we have no idea who did it. And other is like, oh, there is some guy, he died, and we don't know where he is.
Yeah.
And
there was a squad, and then we stopped talking about them. And we don't know why.
I mean, it's a bigger mystery when so many people goes missing. Yeah. But even the Malaysia plane, you know, the plane that went missing a couple of years ago, and we still don't know what happened with it. I think this is much more interesting. I mean, maybe not interesting, but much bigger mystery, because for a plane to disappear in today's world, it's not as, you know, as shocking as one legion of Roman soldiers who probably, it's possible that nothing even happened, but we just don't know.
They fell out of grace and they didn't want to put them in history books anymore.
Because he said that there are theories that they could also be in the Judea later. So it's possible that they were, but we don't have enough sources for that. But the last one, I mean, that's what I expected from this video.
Yeah, me too. But I like those other subjects because I didn't know about it. So
yeah, that's true. Yeah. It was educational, definitely, but it wasn't such a mystery as the last one. So he lived the best for the last.
I can research some of the ones that I heard about, and I can see if there's any fun videos that I can show you.
All right.
That'd be interesting. Leave us a like if you liked it. And if you didn't, you can still leave us a like. Actually, they don't check that. We'll see you in the next video, guys. Bye-bye.